So this week, we are looking at this part. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. So let's be serious here for a second. Do you ever really consider this? The implications for what this is. I'm the maker of heaven and earth. Or are you just like, oh yeah, that's nice. Or it becomes like your trump card to prove that God created the world, right? It's like God created it, like all that stuff. Like do you ever consider this? Do you slow down enough to go, God created the world. God, our Father Almighty, the one who saves His people, created the world. Do you ever stop to consider it? Because I don't know if I did growing up. It's like, oh yeah, I knew about it, and I had little terms that I was given in Sunday school to kind of defend kind of the thinking of it and all that. But I don't know if I ever stopped and let it change my life or impact how I lived daily. Because it's kind of like how I treated my mother growing up. Maybe you guys can understand this. Because I never really considered all the things my mom did for me growing up. All the time she washed my underwear. I never really considered it until I ran out, right? And then it became a huge issue, right? Or how about all the lunches my mom made for me? And then the one day when you get to that magic age where it's you're expected to do it yourself, suddenly my lunches went from fancy sliced sandwiches and some cookies and some carrot sticks and maybe an apple, a nice lunch, to whatever I could slap between two slices of bread and maybe an apple if it was in the fridge. The quality of my lunches went down, right? I never really considered it until then. And this hasn't happened to me yet, but I have a bunch of friends who have had kids, and they said that my friend said that, man, as soon as my wife had our first child, the concept of mother just completely changed for me, right? The consideration and thinking about mother just completely, it just changed my perspective. So do we consider the maker of heaven and earth? Do you consider the Creator and how it impacts your daily life? So why should I care? Why should I care about whether God created the heavens and the earth? What does that matter to me? It doesn't change my life, right? Well, it does. At least I think it does. And I'm going to try to convince you of that today. That what we think about the creation and the Creator impacts how we view our world today. And for those of you that know me well, you know that I can't preach about the creation without talking about Genesis 1. I love Genesis chapter 1. I love it so much. And the reason why is that it gets confused. So I've already preached this part of the sermon a little bit before, but some of you weren't here and all of that. So, and there's certain things in life that are just good to hear more than once. They're good to hear over and over and over again. And that's why it's good to look at Genesis in this way. So Genesis chapter 1, there's 6 days of creation, right? 6 days of creation. And what we usually think of is we're like, oh yeah, we have 6 days and it's this linear fashion that happens and everything is created. But what's actually going on is that it's a song. What Cassie read a little bit ago is the song of creation. And the beautiful thing is that in between each day, there's this refrain that says, and it was good, right? It was good. It was this, you were created good. And you're like, this song of creation, what is he talking about? Well, it's this poem, it's this song. And here, I have evidence for it. Remember when you were in school, right? High school, maybe middle school, something like that, and you were learning about poetry? And poetry all has a meter to it, like A, B, B, A, or something like that. Well, Genesis 1 is A, B, C, A, B, C. All right? Check this out. So, what was created in day 1? like light, right? Let there be light. And then day 2, separation of the waters. The waters above he called the heavens, and the waters below he called the sea, right? Then day 3, they pulled ground out of the waters, and all the plant life, shrubberies and stuff like that, all grew out from there. And then day 4, all the heavenly beings, like all the sun, moon, stars, and all the different planets and all of that. And then birds of the air for day 5, and the fish of the sea. And then 6, all the things that creep and move and have their being on the ground. And what's cool is the pattern is A, B, C, A, B, C. Because day 4 is filling out day 1. Day 5 is filling out day 2. And day 6 is filling out day 3. This is something that as soon as you see it, you can't unsee it. All right, it's like you should walk away from it and go, oh, my entire life was a lie. Like that's kind of that's kind of how you look at it. And it's this beautiful song that says, the goodness of God is there, and He's created us good, and He wants us here. And each day He says it was good, and He wants you here. Now, in order for that to be important, you have to understand when this was really popular amongst the Hebrews, there was another creation myth that was really popular amongst the Babylonians. And that one was the creation myth of Marduk. It's a famous one that we have. You can look it up, just look up Marduk, and that creation epic said this, that Marduk was this warring god, and that he would just take whatever was his that he wanted. And he's like, I want that, and it's going to be mine. If you're going to get in my way, I'm going to kill you. And there was another god that was getting in his way. Her name was Tiamat. And he slayed Tiamat, and then filleted her. And the top fillet became the sky, and the bottom fillet became the earth. Cool story, huh? Yeah, but think about who the Babylonians were. They were it, right? They were awesome and strong. If they wanted something, they went and got it, right? They went and got it. And it didn't matter if you were Hebrew or Egyptian or anything like that. If they wanted your land and your people, they would go in and they would kill you if you got in their way. And they would enslave you, and they would take your women and children and do whatever they want with them, right? They get over there. It sounds like they're God, right? So have you considered which creation story you actually follow? Do you follow the creation story of Marduk, taking whatever you want to use it for whatever you need, come hell or high water, or do you follow the creation story of our God, Yahweh, who created everything good? See that? Ooh, got deep in here all of a sudden, right? Like that's, which one do you follow? Because which one you consider, it matters to how you view the world. Because God tells us something very interesting at the end of Genesis chapter 1. He says, and God blessed them. This is talking about how He created Adam and Eve in His own image, the image bearers of God. That'll be another sermon. We'll talk about that another time, what image bearers mean. But we're the image bearers of God. And so He blessed them, and God said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Like that's, and I hear what some people say, they're like, dominion and rule over everything. It's like, yes, I can do with it whatever I please. And they just mowing down forest animals, right? Like that's, like I want to do whatever I can here. That's not what it means. That's not what it means. It means to rule and have dominion. Now, what does it mean? Like, if we got to go back into like King Arthur days right now, when we think about this word dominion, we have to go back to King Arthur days. What did it mean for someone to be a good king? What did that mean? It means like they were good to their people, right? They had dominion over the lands and all that, but they did things which helped their people. That was a good king. What was a bad king? Someone that just took all that wealth and served it for themselves, right? That was generally a bad king. That was normally regarded as that. So they both have dominion over that, but we understand in the core of us what a good king and a bad king is. We understand what it means to have good dominion and bad dominion. Listen, when you were growing up and you wanted to go out and you were like 16 or 17 and you wanted to go out with your friends and you went up to your mom and said, "Mom, can I have the car?" She was giving you rule and dominion over that car, right? Did that mean that you could do with it whatever you please? No, because there would be something to pay, right? If something happened to that car, right? That you got for your mom. Yeah, she's giving you rule and dominion over that car. Not everyone understands that like this, but I don't know. Anyway, she's giving you rule or dominion over that car. And she's entrusting you with it, that you will take care of it. Maybe you might even fill it with gas. But I've talked to some of you. Like that's no guarantees of that. But rule and dominion over it. That's what God was giving us. Do you see the two veins here? Do you see the two veins? That you have Marduk as the creator, and it's just like, I will take whatever I want, and I will use it any way that I want to so that I can benefit. Or it's the God who created everything good, and He's giving you dominion and rule. He's basically established a trust with us in charge of it. And that we are to rule and subdue it, right? To tend the garden. Yeah. This is why I love the Gospel of John. At the end of the Gospel of John, Mary, she goes over to the tomb and she looks inside of it and she goes, "It's empty." And she starts crying because she thinks someone has stolen the Savior's body. Someone has stolen the Messiah's body. And then, and John, this super clever move, John has Jesus walk up to her and says, "Why are you crying?" And not looking up, it says in John, she thought he was the gardener. Now, if you've ever read past that and you're like, that's just odd that he thought it was the gardener, that's like John is cluing in here. He's saying, hey, remember this dominion that we had over the garden, that we were to tend the garden? The gardener is back and he's restoring it. And him rising up from the dead is saying the new creation is adventing in. It's coming in. The new creation is at hand. It's beautiful, this beautiful story. But so I ask again, when you think of the Creator, which one do you consider? Is it Marduk, who you take whatever you want? You know, is that the one where my career matters more than anything else? Is that the one where your politician that you like has to win no matter what? I'm picking on everybody. All right? Like, is that the one where, like, I have to, like, if I have an argument with my neighbor over something, I have to win it, no matter how much expense or anything I have to pass? Does that mean that we get to just, you know, we get to run over our coworkers to get whatever we want? Is that Marduk? Or is it we're entrusted in this and we want everyone? We want the whole creation to be blessed. We are blessed to be a blessing. That's the Abrahamic covenant. That's, you see, you have to consider the Creator. And that's the problem, is that normally my no goodness, my sinfulness, I curl in on myself and I serve myself. And I use the creation to just serve me. I look at my mom, right, and I go, listen, you birthed me to serve me, right? You guys are like, no, that's ridiculous. But how many of your kids have basically said that to you, right? Like that's, and we've all kind of thought it. It's like, no, it's my will. The Old Testament way of saying this is like they got to do whatever was right in their own eyes. Like that's what they said. But Jesus comes into this world. And that's where we get to John chapter 1. Oh yeah, I can't even get to John chapter 1 yet. I have a Luther quote. Think about this. This quote is from the Large Catechism, and this thing was written 500 years ago. All right? Look at this quote from the Large Catechism. Come on. There it is. Rather than being caretakers of God's creation, we've only been caretakers of ourselves. Whoa, right? Whoa. And we have to remember the people to our right and our left right now, they are God's creation too. The grass outside, that's God's creation. Lake Okeechobee, that's God's creation. The oceans, everything, it's God's creation. Have we become caretakers of God's creation, or have we only been worried about ourselves? Like it's a tough, tough thing. Do you consider Marduk to be the creator? Or this God, Yahweh, who blesses us all? And I know it can kind of seem hopeless in here, and it's like, oh man, yeah, I've really served myself a lot. That's when we read John chapter 1. In John chapter 1 it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. It says, in the beginning was the Word. What does that mean? In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the voice. The logos is what it is in Greek. In the beginning was the voice. How did God, Yahweh, create the world? By speaking. In the beginning was the voice, and the Word was with God. What? The voice was with God? And the Word was God. Oh, we're talking about Jesus here. The voice was with God, and the voice was God, and He was in the beginning with God. You see what it's saying is that Jesus was there right in the beginning, and all things, everything was made with Him. Everything was made from Him. And then we see this as we fast forward to verse 14 because of time. And the Word became flesh. The voice became flesh and dwelt among us. And we've seen His glory, the glory of the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth. The voice became flesh. The voice that created the heavens and the earth and said, it was good. That voice became flesh. What does it mean for it to become flesh? It means for it to become the creation. Right? It means for it to become the creation. And then it says, and dwelt among us. Dwelt is a weird word there, because I think we just skip by this. What does dwelt mean? I have another word for it that's just equally as weird, and it is He housed among us. That's a weird word, right? He housed among us. See, here's the thing. Is that, oftentimes we consider Marduk when we think about the creation. We're like, I'm going to take it and use it for whatever I want to use it for. We look at our neighbors and we go, yeah, like you live here to serve me, right? At least if you're not going to serve me, you can leave me alone, right? But we've been entrusted with it, and we've messed that up. But Jesus came, the very voice of creation that that sang it into existence, has come in and restored it even when we've messed it up. And even when we've destroyed the relationships around us. And He didn't do it somewhere else. He came and He put up residence right in our neighborhood. And He dwelt among us. He housed among us. And then He died the death that we all deserve from just watching over ourselves, so that he could rise again, showing us the way that we would rise. That we would rise here in a new creation with new bodies in the perfect world. So yeah, sometimes we muck things up a little bit. But the voice came of creation and made us holy again. And that's a beautiful, beautiful story. So God created you good. So to end this, we got to end it like the other sermon did. In between each day of creation, God said it was good, right? We got to think about that. That when we consider God the Creator, that He created it good. It was created good, and you have been created good. Remember that and believe it. Let's say a prayer.